Something's wrong! We can't stay here!
My wife had just run to the store. My 7-year-old daughter then whispered, "We have to get out of here right now." I laughed, asking, "Why?" She pointed upstairs, trembling, and repeated, "We don't have time. We have to leave this house now." I grabbed the car keys and headed straight for the police station. And that's exactly when it all went down. The front door had barely clicked shut when my 7-year-old tugged insistently at my sleeve. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her lips were trembling. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice shaking. "We have to get out of here right now." I chuckled softly, ruffling her hair. "Out? Why? Did you hear the ice cream truck?" But she didn't crack a smile. She didn't even move an inch. Instead, she pointed upstairs, her little finger stiff and trembling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "We don't have time," she insisted. "We have to leave this house now." The very air in the room suddenly seemed to shift. My laughter died in my throat. You learn certain things as a father. When a child is pretending, there are always tells, forced tears, wavering tones, cartoonish expressions of fear. But this wasn't any of that. This was raw, genuine, something she'd truly felt deep down. I stared silently up the staircase. Too silent. The hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen suddenly sounded as loud as thunder. I knelt down, gently holding her shoulders. "What did you see?" She shook her head, replying with, "No time." That was all she was willing to say. I grabbed the car keys off the counter, noticing my hand was shaking. My rational mind whispered, "She's just scared. Kids imagine monsters." But my gut was telling me something completely different, and in that moment I decided to trust my gut. I scooped her up into my arms, my heart pounding in my chest, and stepped out into the crisp afternoon air. The door swung shut behind us, as silent as a deep secret. I buckled her securely into the back seat of the car. She clutched her backpack tightly to her chest like it was some kind of shield. "Where are we going?" she asked me with concern. "The police station," I said, turning the key in the ignition. "They'll keep us safe." We pulled carefully out of the driveway, and for a brief second, everything felt completely normal. Just another drive down the same quiet street we'd taken 100 times before. Then, my phone buzzed loudly on the passenger seat. A text message from an unknown number. Too late. My stomach instantly dropped. I gripped the steering wheel tighter than ever. And that's when it happened. From behind us, from the direction of the house, came a deafening boom that shook everything. A powerful shockwave rolled down the street, rattling the car windows violently. My daughter screamed as I slammed on the brakes as hard as I could. Through the rear-view mirror, I saw it all. Our house was completely engulfed in flames, thick black smoke curling menacingly into the sky. She had been right about everything. The blast continued to echo in my chest long after the ravenous fire had swallowed our house whole. My daughter's small hands clutched at the seatbelt, her knuckles bone white from the tension. Sirens wailed loudly in the distance, growing ever closer. The neighbors had already placed their calls. Within just minutes, fire trucks came screaming down the block, closely followed by several police squad cars. I pulled the car over to the side of the road, my heart hammering in my chest, my eyes fixated on the thick column of black smoke rising high into the air where my home used to stand. The questions. An officer quickly rushed to my window. "Sir, were you inside the house?" "No," I stammered, still in shock. We just left." "My daughter, she said we had to get out." The cop frowned, his eyes narrowing as he looked at me. "She said you had to leave?" I nodded slowly. My daughter pressed her face tightly into my shoulder, refusing to even glance back at the raging flames. By nightfall, the fire was finally out, leaving only the charred skeleton of the house still smoldering quietly. The lead investigator pulled me aside, his tone grim and serious. "Mr. Lucas, this wasn't an accident. The gas lines are all intact, there's no faulty wiring, but upstairs in what appears to be a storage closet." He hesitated slightly, glancing at my daughter before lowering his voice. "We found signs that someone had been living there. Bedding, food wrappers, even a burner phone." The ground suddenly felt like it was tilting beneath my feet. Someone was secretly living inside my house. The officer nodded slowly in agreement. And whoever it was, they set accelerant charges before they left. This fire was meant to completely erase everything. Later that night at the station, my daughter finally spoke, breaking her silence. She sat cross-legged in the interview room, clutching a crayon that one of the officers had kindly given her. "I saw him," she whispered softly. "Who?" I asked gently, trying to reassure her. She drew a quick figure on the paper. "Tall, dark, no face, just hollow eyes. He was in Mommy's room. He looked directly at me. He put his finger here." She pressed it lightly to her lips like this. Then he went upstairs. My blood ran completely cold. The detective then returned with the burner phone they'd pulled from the wreckage. It was badly fried from the intense fire, but one text thread was still barely legible on the SIM card. A single contact, saved simply under the name E. The last message was sent just an hour before the explosion ripped through the house. "She's gone to the store. Do it now." I stared at the screen in disbelief, my pulse hammering in my ears. My wife had left for the store only minutes before our daughter had begged me to leave the house. And now, I had a question burning hotter than the smoldering ruins of my house. Was my wife just another innocent victim in all of this? Or was she somehow a part of it? By the time my wife returned from the store, the house was already a completely blackened husk. Neighbors stared in disbelief, fire crews packed up their equipment, and police tape fluttered wildly in the wind like yellow scars. She ran immediately toward us, dropping the grocery bags right on the sidewalk, the milk spilling across the pavement. Her eyes darted quickly from me to our daughter, then back again to the ruins of our home. "Oh my God, what happened?" she cried, her voice breaking with emotion. But there was no real shock in her eyes, no disbelief, only a raw fear, sharp and knowing. That night, they let us stay in a temporary safe house that was arranged by the police department. My daughter slept soundly in the next room, but I couldn't manage to close my eyes, not even for a moment. Neither could my wife. Finally, I asked her directly, "Where exactly did you go today?" She stiffened suddenly. "I already told you. The store." "What store?" Her hesitation seemed way too long, too deliberate. "Target." Funny. The receipt that was crumpled in her grocery bag was clearly from a small corner market, and not Target at all. I leaned slightly forward, keeping my voice as calm as possible. "Someone set the fire. The cops found a burner phone upstairs. It had messages, orders. Someone knew you were gone when it started." Her face went completely pale. "What? You can't possibly think that I cut her off quickly. "You left just minutes before it happened. You didn't even bother to warn us." "Our daughter saw him, whoever he was, standing in your bedroom." Her hands began to shake uncontrollably as she reached nervously for a glass of water. She missed the cup entirely, knocking it over with a loud crash. "David, please don't say things like that. You don't know what you're talking about." But the distinct tremor in her voice told me that I did. Near midnight, when she thought I was sound asleep, I watched her carefully slip into the bathroom with her phone. I crept closer, pressing my ear against the door. Her voice was low, urgent and hushed. No, he suspects something. I can't. Not now. He has the girl with him. Just lay low for a while. I'll figure something out. I completely froze in place. The girl. She was talking about our daughter. The door creaked open and she stepped slowly out of the bathroom. She flinched noticeably when she saw me standing there in the dark hallway. "Who were you talking to?" I asked her directly. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed again. Then she whispered one word. E. The name from the burner phone. The name my daughter had unknowingly drawn in the shadows. And now, the name on my wife's lips. For 13 long years, I thought I knew the woman that I had married. That night, staring at her pale face in the hallway of a stranger's safe house, I realized that I didn't know her at all. And whatever game she was playing, it was about to pull us all under, dragging us down with her. The next morning, I didn't confront her directly about anything. Instead, I decided to play along, staying calm, being watchful, and just waiting to see what would happen. She moved around the safe house like a trapped animal, deliberately avoiding my eyes and nervously glued to her phone whenever she thought I wasn't looking. I needed answers, not denials. Around noon, Detective Ramirez stopped by. He dropped a file folder on the kitchen table and slid it carefully toward me. "We ran the SIM card from that burner phone, only one number going in and out. It belongs to a prepaid line registered under a fake ID. But the payments?" He tapped the folder knowingly. "They were all made with a card that is linked directly to your wife's personal account." The world seemed to tilt precariously. My wife completely froze mid-step, the grocery bag in her hand slipping and falling to the floor. Apples rolled carelessly across the tile. "That's impossible," she said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "It must be some kind of mistake." Ramirez didn't even blink. "We'll keep digging. But you should know that whoever this E is, your wife has been funding him for months now." Pieces of the puzzle finally fell together in my head, jagged and sharp. The late-night errands, the unexplained charges on the credit card that I'd brushed off as simple shopping sprees, the new perfume that she bought which wasn't really for me. And now my daughter's terrified whisper, her small finger pointing upstairs, her insistence that we leave the house immediately. I realized the terrible truth that my adult brain had refused to see. My innocent 7-year-old daughter had seen through all of the lies long before I had. When the detective finally left, I asked her outright, "Who is he?" Her lip trembled slightly. For just a brief moment, I thought I saw the wife I once knew, the woman who laughed at all of my bad jokes, who held our daughter tenderly whenever she was sick. Then it was gone completely, replaced by a cold, emotionless mask. "You don't understand, David," she said, her voice almost pleading. "He needed help. I was just supporting him until he could get back on his feet again. It's not what you think." But I already knew that it was exactly what I thought. Later that night, while she was taking a shower, I decided to search her purse. Inside, hidden carefully beneath makeup compacts and grocery receipts, was another phone, sleek, new, glowing brightly with unread messages. The top thread was with E. The most recent message made my stomach instantly turn to ice. "You should have just let the fire finish the job. Then we'd finally be free." And her reply was sent just before she stepped out of the bathroom earlier. "I'll fix it. Trust me." I stood there in the dim light, phone firmly in hand, listening to the water running loudly behind the closed door. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was about survival. My wife had actually conspired to erase us completely. And now I was the one holding all of the evidence that could erase her from our lives. I didn't explode with anger. I didn't confront her with the second phone or scream at her about her betrayal. That's exactly what she expected me to do. That's what she had been carefully preparing for all along. Instead, I carefully slipped the device into my pocket and forced myself to smile when she walked out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped securely around her shoulders. "Want me to order some dinner?" I asked casually, as if my whole world hadn't just shattered into a million pieces all over again. Her shoulders visibly relaxed. She really thought that I was still completely blind to everything. Perfect. At dawn, while she was still sound asleep, I quietly left the safe house with the phone. Detective Ramirez definitely owed me a huge favor. By noon, the entire contents of the phone had been downloaded. Bank transfers, dozens and dozens of messages, compromising photos, every thread meticulously tied my wife directly to E. And it wasn't just some simple affair. There were detailed plans, in-depth discussions, the fire itself, even hints about a large insurance payout, and chilling notes about child custody, as if they were actively building a brand new life together after they had successfully cut me out of the picture completely. I felt incredibly sick to my stomach, but the sickness gradually hardened into a firm resolve. They wanted me gone, forgotten, reduced to ashes. Instead, I would be the one writing their ending. That evening, I played my part perfectly. Quiet husband, distracted, pretending to nurse my wounds, but I dropped just enough subtle hints to bait her. The police think the SIM card was paid for by a stolen account. Can you even believe that? Her eyes widened noticeably. She nearly choked on her food, hook, line, and sinker. By midnight, she was back on the burner phone, typing furiously. I already knew exactly what she would say. He suspects absolutely nothing. Just a few more days. I carefully screen captured everything. 2 days later, I arranged a meeting. I told her that the police wanted us both to come in for a follow-up interview. She panicked, tried desperately to wriggle out of it, but I insisted that we go. At the station, Ramirez laid it all out calmly, like a skilled surgeon carefully opening a festering wound. The payments, the texts, the second phone, the entire plot to burn the house down while our daughter and I were still inside, her face completely drained of all color. "David," she whispered, finally looking directly at me. "Please, you don't understand." I didn't mean for it to go that far. But I'd already heard enough lies to last me a lifetime. When Ramirez mentioned bringing E in for questioning, she finally broke completely. "He'll never talk," she blurted out. "He'll disappear before you even find him." And just like that, she admitted that he was real, alive, and her co-conspirator. Ramirez's eyes flicked subtly to me. We had her right where we wanted her. But my revenge wasn't quite finished yet, because simply exposing her wasn't enough for me. I wanted E too, and I already knew exactly how to draw him out into the open. The officers all wanted to press charges immediately, but I stopped them. "Not yet," I told Ramirez. "If you lock her up now, he will vanish. He's already a ghost. We need to pull him into the light." Ramirez studied me intently for a long moment, then finally nodded in agreement. "What exactly do you have in mind?" That night, they released her on purpose. They let her believe that she'd somehow slipped through the cracks, that I'd cracked under the pressure and refused to testify against her. I acted the part of the weary, forgiving husband perfectly. I even hugged her at the curb. She clung tightly to me, but her eyes completely betrayed her. They weren't grateful at all. They were calculating, already plotting her next move. This was exactly what I needed. Within just an hour, she messaged E. "He bought it. We're in the clear. Meet me tomorrow. We can talk about the insurance money." She thought she was texting in complete secrecy, but her phone was tapped. Every single word went straight to the task force. The next night, I drove her to the rendezvous point, an abandoned warehouse on the very edge of town. My daughter was safe and sound with my sister, far away from all of the danger. She was noticeably jittery in the passenger seat, nervously biting her nails. "You sure about this, David?" she asked me, filled with doubt. I kept my tone flat and even. "You wanted to meet him, didn't you?" The warehouse loomed ominously in the dark, its broken windows like empty eyes. I parked the car, and she slipped inside first. I followed closely behind, my heart steady, every step carefully rehearsed. And then I saw him, tall, shaved head, familiar in the worst possible way. My best friend, the man I'd trusted with all of my secrets, the one who'd stood beside me at my wedding 13 years ago. E wasn't some nameless stranger. He was Eli. The weight of the betrayal doubled instantly, crushing my chest. He smirked knowingly when he saw me. "Guess the little family reunion didn't quite go as planned, huh?" Before I could even reply, bright flashlights exploded around us. Armed officers surged from every corner of the warehouse. Guns were raised, voices commanding, "Hands up now! Do it now!" Eli froze in place. My wife screamed loudly. I just stood there calmly, watching the whole web of deceit unravel. Because this wasn't just the police's sting operation. It was all mine. Every step, the tapped phone, the fake forgiveness, the carefully orchestrated meeting, had been orchestrated entirely by me. They dragged Eli out in handcuffs, his bravado crumbling quickly. My wife begged and cried, swearing that she hadn't meant for it all to go this far. I didn't answer her. I didn't even look at her. When the officers read her the charges, conspiracy to commit arson, attempted murder, fraud, she finally understood the gravity of the situation. The fire that she had tried to bury me in had ultimately become her own execution. As she was being shoved into the back of the squad car, our eyes met one last time. She whispered desperately, "David, please." I shut the door myself. Too late. Epilogue. The lesson in the flames. The trial didn't take long at all. The evidence was completely overwhelming. The texts, the payments, the burner phones, it was all there in stark black and white. Eli tried to play it tough, but when the jury heard my daughter's recorded statement describing in vivid detail how he put his finger to his lips and crept quietly upstairs, the room went ice cold. He dropped the mask completely. The guilty verdict was swift and decisive. My wife didn't fare much better. She pleaded desperately for leniency, claiming that she'd been manipulated and used. But the paper trail of her funding, her texts promising to fix it, and her presence at every single step of the conspiracy sealed her fate. They were both sentenced to many years behind bars, years to think long and hard about what they had almost destroyed. For months afterward, I had vivid nightmares of that terrifying whisper, "Daddy, we have to get out of here right now." But over time, it gradually became less of a nightmare and more of a powerful reminder. My daughter had ultimately saved us. Her pure instinct, her innocence, had cut through all of the lies that I'd ignored for far too long. We rebuilt our lives slowly, piece by piece. New apartment, new routines. She drew pictures again, but this time they were pictures of parks and sunshine, not shadowy men with hollow eyes. I made her a solemn promise. Never again would I dismiss her voice. She taught me that sometimes children see truths that adults stubbornly refuse to see. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she asked me softly, "Daddy, are we safe now?" I pulled her close to me. "Yes, sweetheart. We're safe because we've already been through the fire, and we walked out of it together." The final lesson is that betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those you love the most. But true survival is built on trust, even when it comes from the smallest voice in the room. And as I watched my daughter fall asleep, finally peaceful and at ease, I realized something incredibly powerful. Revenge hadn't been about mere punishment. It had been about reclaiming our lives, and we had done just that. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged even harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one of them. Hit like if you crave justice, and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Lauren's story because here, betrayals don't just sleep. They relentlessly hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask eventually breaks, and every betrayal is ultimately answered. Stay sharp. Stay unbroken. Stay tuned.